think I will just speak to maybe three issues. I think first is, I think the substantive chair had spoken to an issue around our legal basis for setting pump prices. I just wish to state to you, honourable members, that in exercise of this mandate, we are guided by the law, the Energy Act, the Petroleum Act, and the attendant regulations. We do compute prices on the basis of an average of the landed cost coming into the country between the 10th of the month to the 9th of the next month. We take an average of the landed cost of the petroleum products in that country. I wish to state that there are three price components that go into the pump price that we do pay, all of us as Kenyans, including us who work at EPRA. One is the landed cost. The product itself is an international, globally traded commodity. We don't have the power over the product other than for the freight and premium, as Waziri has spoken to, which we've managed to negotiate downwards. The other are the transportation and storage costs. These are the pipeline costs, the cost with respect to storage, and the margins. These are the wholesale and retail margins to the oil marketing companies. I wish to notify this Honourable House that we as a regulator are in the course of conducting a cost of service study to allow us then to identify all the cost components. The other is really also not within our gift, but within the gift of this House. These are the taxes and levies that are levied upon petroleum products. So those are the three components, Chair, that are applicable to the pump price. Chair, you did ask a question as to what has led to this spike. Over the last 3 months, we have seen a spike in the landed cost of petroleum products. As I said, this is an international global traded commodity which is not within our mandate. One, we have seen the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, cut production by about 3.6 million barrels, which is about 3.6% of the global demand. This was caused a supply and demand imbalance driving prices up globally. We've also seen the continuation of the conflict we've seen in Russia and Ukraine continuing to drive up prices as well on account of lower supply. We've also seen a demand, and this is a cyclical event on an annual basis. As we come out of the summer and start going into winter, you start seeing stockpiling of heating oils. Because of the unavailability of natural gas for purposes of heating, you start seeing particularly the prices of diesel and kerosene, heavy fuel oil that are used as a substitute for fueling, for heating rather homes, starting to go up in readiness for the winter season. We also saw over the last 3 months refineries shut down, one on account of scheduled maintenance, and also two on account of very high temperatures in the global north, particularly on account of climate change. And because we are dealing with hydrocarbons and from a health and safety standpoint, some of those refineries had to shut down. Those are the factors that have led to the prices rising at a global scale. Chair and honourable members, we have seen, and as Waziri has said, we plan on an M-1 basis. The product that lands in the country in this month of September will be priced in the next month. So I think to the question as to the prediction that has been seen, and we did have an engagement yesterday with the members of the public as to what is the outlook over the next 3 months going forward. We have seen June, July, and August. For instance, the prices of super petrol landed in Kenya going up from $691.76 per metric ton to $776.69 in August. But we have seen Platts, which is on the month average, go up for super petrol from $818 a metric ton to $947 a metric ton. For diesel, the Platts price has jumped in June from $636 in June to $853 in August. We have also seen a jump of kerosene from $692.39 in June to $903.25 in July. Honourable Mandazi has also asked a question: how do we compare this to where we were last year at the same time? The prices that were applicable at the time in the pricing month of September to October 2022, we were paying at the pump $179 shillings and 30 cents for super, 185 shillings and 82 cents for diesel, 174 shillings and 19 cents for kerosene. But what is important to note is that the mean exchange rate that we did apply at the time a year ago was $120.64. For purposes of pricing, this cycle that we did begin today, we have applied 148 shillings. On average, we import about 550 million litres. About 60-65% of that is what we consume locally. So the movement of 1 shilling, in terms of 1 shilling to the dollar, is an additional 300 to 350 million shillings that will be passed on to consumers at the pump. I think that is an important point to make, Chair and honourable members. So in my view, Chair, I think one is that the spike is a global spike. It is a spike that has been seen across the globe. Further, we have seen this happen in our region. Our counterpart in Tanzania did release their pump prices last week on the 6th. They do it bi-weekly. They did increase prices, as we did yesterday as a regulator. They do have another review next week. And as Waziri has said, looking at the freight and premiums in the competing corridor, we as a country continue to be very competitive with respect to pricing. In terms of the G2G, I think there has been a question as to, and this has been reported also in the media, as to an import bill that is coming up for payment in the course of this month. I wish to confirm to this Honourable House that we as a regulator sit and superintend over a committee and the G2G arrangement called a Treasury Risk Management Committee, where we do meet every Wednesday to mitigate the risks. And for the vessels, the first vessel under the G2G arrangement will be falling due on the 25th. I wish to confirm to this Honourable House that we have closed 5 of the cargoes. All the cargoes in the month of September and October, we've been able to convert all the shilling to dollar without having to approach the market, working with the nominated OMCs and working with our counterpart regulator in the financial services sector, the central bank, the National Treasury, and our parent ministry, to ensure that we are able then to unwind the shilling and be able then to pass on that benefit and ensure the LC is not called. So I just wanted to make that point in terms of the G2G arrangement. And as to whether this has been beneficial to the economy, taking out a third of the demand of FX and even speaking to our licensees, the oil marketing companies, where they used to approach the market, all of them seeking for the dollars. Today we sit every Wednesday as a sector under our supervision, able to sit and look at the dollar demand as one sector and be able to approach the market in a coordinated manner. That has allowed the other dollars to be freed up to other sectors of the economy to allow the country to do what it must. So I think those are some of the benefits in terms of G2G. I think a question we are not asking ourselves is if the petroleum sector, because the petroleum sector was solving for a macroeconomic problem, if the petroleum sector did not do what it did, where would we be? I think that's a fundamental question that we would wish the committee to consider and we wish Kenyans to consider as well. In terms of how we compare, as at yesterday we did release a press release in terms of comparator as to where we are as compared to our neighbours in the region and also further afield as far as South Africa and also in the West. I may not want to go into the numbers as to how we compare as at yesterday. We'll be able to review those numbers and share with you. And I just want to finish, Chair and honourable members, by saying that I think the question, and I believe the month before last, the government, through the Cabinet Secretary and the Executive, applied a stabilisation programme of 169 million shillings to cushion diesel, and this was in a bid to ensure that Kenyans, particularly in the agricultural sector, were not impacted. Last cycle, there was another 1.8 billion shillings that was applied to stabilize prices. And I think this was the debate that was at the time, are subsidies back? And the response at the time was that subsidies were not back. This was stabilization. As the Cabinet Secretary has said, the Petroleum Development Levy, which is, amongst other functions, is to stabilize pump prices collected on average between 2.2 to 2.5 billion shillings a month. At the time that the 1.8 billion stabilization was applied in the last pricing cycle, the fund held about 3.5 billion shillings. The input from our computation as the regulator, if we were to hold prices in the cycle that we began today, it would require the economy to fork out upwards of 8.6, 8.7 billion shillings. And looking at the forward curve, Chair and honourable members, noting that we price on an M-1 basis, if you look at the trend, we already know the trajectory where we are going next month and the month after. And I think this goes to the question that Honourable Chair asked around the market being able to calculate, and also others in the private sector and also within government being able to see where their forward curve is going to. I think that is the reason why we need to ask ourselves if we are going outside the basket of the Petroleum Development Levy and dipping into the exchequer. Is it sustainable, recognizing where we've come from as an economy, having spent over 160 billion shillings to stabilize and subsidize prices in the past year? Chair, I submit.
Thank you. And Waziri, from that explanation, can you assure Kenyans that they are going to experience fuel reduction or reduction in the prices during the